The Boston Tea Party affected the United States in a way that no one could foresee. The event was the first major act of defiance to British rule over the colonists. In this documentary, we will review the causes of the Boston Tea Party, why it happened, and what led up to the event. We will also discuss the event of the Boston Tea Party, what happened during the night of the Boston Tea Party. Lastly, we will discuss the impact of the Boston Tea Party. We will discuss the impact that it had on England as well as the colonists. The primary cause of the Boston Tea Party was that England was continuing to impose taxes on the colonists. The colonists were angered by these actions. The Sugar Act of 1764 placed a tax on all imported sugars to the colonies. The Stamp Act of 1765 placed a tax on all printed materials within the colonies. The Townshend Acts of 1767 placed a tax on several British goods that were imported to the colonies. The Tea Act of 1773 placed a tax on tea imported to the colonies from England. Out of all the imposed taxes, the colonists were outraged by the Tea Act of 1773 the most. This is when they realized that action had to be taken. Shortly after the Tea Act was created, a group nicknamed the Sons of Liberty was formed. This group was composed of local Boston craftsmen, business owners, and tradesmen. Their goal? To take action against the recent taxes imposed by England. They met at the Old South Meeting House, located in Boston, where they devised a plan to unload British ships transporting tea into the river at night. They would do so disguised as Mohawk Indians to represent their identifying as Americans rather than British citizens. The Boston Tea Party occurred on the night of December 16, 1773, at Griffin's Wharf in Boston, Massachusetts. This is when more than 100 American colonists, disguised as Mohawk Indians, raided and plundered 3 British ships, dumping tea into the river. The colonists dumped 342 crates of tea into the river, which is approximately 92,000 pounds. George Hughes, a member of the Sons of Liberty and a local shoemaker in Boston, recorded the night, saying, "In about 3 hours from the time we went on board, we had thus broken and thrown overboard every tea chest to be found in the ship, while those in the other ships were disposing of the tea in the same way at the same time." In about 3 hours, the American colonists had successfully thrown out and destroyed all of the tea on these 3 British ships. The present-day value of this tea would be around $1 million. The British were outraged by the actions that took place during the Boston Tea Party, which led them to immediately create the Intolerable Acts. These acts closed the Boston harbor until the tea that was lost was paid for in full, as well as placed other censures on American colonists. The American colonists did not receive these intolerable acts lightly, and this is where we see the first spark of the American Revolution form. As a result of the Intolerable Acts, American colonists convened the First Continental Congress. This is when American colonists united to censure Britain for passing the Intolerable Acts and called for their repeal. It also established a boycott of British goods and declared the colonies had the right to govern independently. This would be the preamble of the American Revolution. In conclusion, here is an established timeline of the events leading up to and shortly after the Boston Tea Party. The Boston Tea Party ignited a movement far greater than taxes on tea, but sparked the revolution of what now is one of the most powerful countries in the world, the United States of America.